How's it going, guys? Today is February 27, 2:52 p.m. here on the East Coast. Sorry I didn't put up a vlog yesterday. That just means I'll do two today. And I'm excited about today's vlog, the first one, because I'm actually going to be taking a different approach um, to the vlog, which is kind of good for me. And I guess we'll see how it goes. But I want to reply whenever my last vlog was called Catching Up with Old Friends, and my old friend actually watched that vlog and then posted on it. And I'll read you his comment here. So he said, "Yes, dude, so good seeing you last night. You may have touched on this in the past video, but I would like to hear you talk about keeping composure under fire, stressful situations. He was impressed with how I broke up like 3 fights in a row and were still super calm every time that I came back to the table." And so I'd like to do vlogs like this. I'm really excited about this vlog because to me it's talking about certain situations and it's mentoring still. So I'll go ahead and make today's vlog about this, reacting to stressful situations. So that evening, like my friend had said, I was outside talking with him, still working, and a fight happened to break out. And my instinct was to go inside and break it up, which I did. I knew the two guys who were fighting, so it was pretty easy for me to break it up, so to speak. So as I'm doing that, I go back out there and talk to my friend and try to de-escalate the situation after it's calm, and just tell him that it's not typically like that there. That I do want to definitely make that known, that it's typically not like that. It happens like once a quarter. It used to happen a lot more, but when you're in that type of bar environment and there's drinks and liquid courage, as I call it, sometimes it doesn't take much to start a situation. But part of my job there would be to de-escalate, not in a bouncer capacity, but for lack of better words, it is kind of ends up like that, or it seems that way to some people. So why do I react like that? I've had a lot of different training, both in the military and outside of the military. Before I joined the military, I think I've touched on this before, but I went through a firefighter academy, and this was my first experience of having to deal with unpleasant situations where people normally run from a situation. We in the academy, one of the things I took away is that it's a risky job, and you're running into a building where everybody's trying to run out. So I always, was humbled by that. I liked the certain aspect of risk, even though fires are like maybe, I don't know, a fraction of it. Let's say 20% or less are actually fire related calls. And then probably less than that are actual fires that you can fight or try to save people in the area of Florida where I live in. It may be different from state to state, but that was roughly the ratios as I was going through the academy. But there's where I got my first taste of being able to respond to a negative type of situation, where I react in a positive manner, where I'm supposed to do something counterintuitive to human nature. Sometimes when there is a fight, like what happened over the weekend, some people, they take off, and I feel like it's part of my job there to help break up those types of things and to stop them from occurring. So for me, and I try to train myself to do that. In the military, I had a lot of training too, where you go through different type of trainings, and I'll touch on one briefly called combatives. There's different levels to it. I won't get into it that much, but it teaches you how to protect yourself and defend yourself for lack of better words. So again, more of that type of like hand-to-hand combat that I've had training in, and again, dealing with stressful situations and how to react to them. And then bunch of other military type of training that lets you deal with scenarios that are less than favorable, and it teaches you how to react to that. And I also where I kind of picked up on it too, where I noticed a lot of similarities, is in the mindset I have is like a Secret Service person. Now, I've never worked for the Secret Service. I've never been to their training. I've watched a couple documentaries, and I was a real big fan of it. There's a lot of important jobs in the U.S., and one of the most important ones is the job that Secret Service people do to protect the president. But their natural reaction has to be not to protect themselves, but to protect the president and put themselves in harm's way should anything happen. If you've ever seen, one of the more popular ones recently is where Donald Trump at a rally, there was a protester that tried to come at him, and you see the Secret Servicemen respond, rather quickly to protect the president. And I have that same frame of mind whenever something happens, just so people can easily relate. And for those who haven't been in the military, some people are more familiar with the Secret Service people and how they react. Their instant reaction is to protect the president for them, and my instant reaction is protect the people around me. My wife was attending that evening, and I did have some other family members there, and I had friends there. So, and I was working, so I tried to de-escalate the situation as quickly as possible. And I'm not one to typically exchange it hand to hand. I try to save that as a last resort. Just what I've been taught from training. It's not the best outcome, and it ends up causing the most damage. So I've also had a lot of other training where the common occurrence is to de-escalate. And every types of the training that I have is to de-escalate the situation as quickly as possible. And that's what I do. And a lot of other people who don't have a lot of training, they like to get involved. And sometimes, it's not necessarily the best thing, but for that evening, you have to remain calm. And I remember one of the first conversations I had with my boss who hired me was he was worried because of my mentality, my demeanor, my experience, that if I were trying to break up a fight per se and somebody hit me, which I didn't really get injured that night, but I have some scratches on my legs. But if somebody were to try and attack me, what's my response? And, it is to de-escalate the situation, not to add to it. So that's what I did that evening is, I went to go break it up. I went to break it up outside as well. And there was an occurrence inside, an occurrence outside, and then a third occurrence inside, all which I had, to break up. Because there's only so many of us working there, and we can only handle so many people, especially when people have been drinking and things of that nature. It's not that calm of an environment, but it's our jobs to remain calm and to de-escalate the situation as quickly, as rapidly as possible, and remove people from the place that we're at, my place of employment. So we've instilled some new policies just to kind of hinder on that, to remove troublesome people, and just they're not welcome that evening. And if they've had a common occurrence there, then they're not welcome back at all. And if they have an issue with that, then we take certain steps which we have in place in order to remove them from there permanently, such as having them trespass. So, but getting back to how to remain calm during those stressful situations, it's taken a lot of training. It's taken a lot of time, and you really have to reverse the natural way of thinking when people are, like I said, for me, it started with the firefighter academy. When people are running away from a situation, trying to get away, I have the mentality where, and some people, especially my wife, doesn't think it's the healthiest decision, but just because certain things can happen to me, but after I explained it to her that it's not that it's my job, but it's part of the job and it's part of the team. Like my little brother came from behind the bar, he was bartending and helped break it up as well. Just because it started to get while I was breaking up something outside, another event kicked off inside, and it was just a chain reaction of events. Looking back on it, we could have done things a little bit differently, which is why we have new like procedures in place should something happen. But at that moment in time, you're just trying to de-escalate. For me, I was just trying to de-escalate the situation and separate. It's like I think I've said this before, but it's like a pot on the stove that's boiling. If you don't take it off that heat, whatever's causing it the heat or the disruption, it's going to boil over. So one thing I was taught in the military is just remove yourself or people from that situation. So if two people are colliding with each other, it's already met that boiling over point. Sometimes you can pick up beforehand and you can see that it's about to boil over and you can de-escalate from there, which would be ideal. But sometimes if you're if things happen rather quickly and you can't and it's already started to boil over, then you have to remove them from the situation that's causing them to boil over. So like I said, I definitely wouldn't recommend it to people who don't have the training, skill, or ability to handle it. And it's honestly reverse cycle thinking that I've been programmed and reprogrammed, and it's been drilled into me, but to run to those situations. When I see something bad happening, especially at a place of my employment, I feel like it's my duty to do something about it, regardless of whether it had something to do with me or not. So the two guys who got into it, I knew both of them, but it had nothing to do with me. It just happened at the place that I was working at. But I did what I thought was best to protect the people in that environment and protect myself, which was, intervene and break it up. So that's kind of how I've been trained to do it, and I'm glad that it went the way that it did, and that nobody was, really injured. Like nobody was had to go to the hospital or anything like that. It was just, a little bit of a scuffle, but I guess my friend was impressed of, remaining calm before, during, and after. And it's just for me, not that it's happened so frequently in my life, but it's happened to me more than your average citizen, where I've had to encounter hostile behavior. And encountering that type of behavior, it's not that it makes me numb to it, but it makes it more normal for me to handle than your average person. And that's why I do try to remain calm. Plus, if you get into that type of situation and you're not calm, I feel like that spreads. And when you're trying to de-escalate something, you need to remain calm at all times in order to, try and facilitate that calmness throughout the people that you're trying to help and de-escalate. Because sometimes when those people are already going and they're boiled over, if you add more intensity to that, it's not a good thing. I haven't seen too many good reactions come out of that. On the contrary, you can kind of get more of a reaction out of a person who's already boiled over if you come in with the same type of hostility. So I always try to come in a couple levels below so they can level with me, and then I can bring them down to a level that is normal or doable for that evening. But that'll be it for the first vlog for today. And I do appreciate the comments and the people leaving me comments. I do like replying to these comments and even making videos about them. I think that they're very intuitive. I think that it helps people understand my frame of mind, and it lets them know that you can't. Sometimes a little bit of training is required in order to handle those types of situations and remain calm. It takes a lot of experience, a lot of time invested, and reprogramming of the brain in order to think the way that I do. But that's not to say that you can't be the average person and breaks up a fight. you just have to know that it's a different. And for my friend to see that I remained calm just meant that I was doing my job effectively, and that we were able to, facilitate what needed to happen that evening, and then get the proper resources involved in order to keep the night calm for the rest of the evening. So that'll be it for the first vlog for today. I'll be putting up the second one here shortly. And I appreciate you guys watching, liking, commenting, subscribing. I'm going to check. I believe I am at 28 or so. Yep, 28 subscribers and 10,300 views. So I appreciate each and every one of these subscribers. My new goal by the end of tomorrow would be to have 2 more subscribers. If I could reach 30 within the first month of me doing this, although this would be my 32nd vlog, it's still technically, I guess, the end of February. It'd be a good goal for February to reach 30. So if I can do that, I would be overjoyed. For me, it's almost one a day, and that is more than I can ask for. So I appreciate you guys watching. And again, some of these videos are long. I've been given opinions and comments and feedback kind of offline about that, and to keep them long if I have stuff to talk about, and to wrap them up shortly if I don't and I start being repetitive. So I'm going to try to, facilitate those things as these videos move along, but I definitely appreciate you guys watching even these longer videos. So thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.